Hi. Recently I've been thinking a lot about design thinking. I've been having some considerations why design thinking may have some misunderstandings, why certain times it's not as successful as I'd like it to be. I've also been noticing that there's a lot of misconceptions about design thinking. So I did a little bit of research and I went a little bit deeper and spent quite a bit of time actually considering design thinking from really a fresh view. I actually spent some time looking at the history and also looking at some of the things that some of the really forefounders of design thinking have really come up with. And so I wanted to put together this video, and it's going to cover the key concepts of design thinking. So yes, stay tuned for this episode. My name is Ken Lee, and this is Mastering UX. So again, after doing some research and diving a little bit deeper into this topic, I realized that concepts are something that take a lot of digestion. I know this is a YouTube video and we all like to get things kind of quick and get 5 tips to practically get started on something. And actually the way design thinking was introduced to me was very quickly we started getting into hands-on practical workshops and things like that. And there was some definition, but I did feel like the definition that was provided to me was a little bit inadequate. And I feel like there's some benefit in spending some time to dive deeper into some of the concepts that are fundamental to design thinking. So let's go ahead and look at this definition, and it comes from Tim Brown from IDEO. It says design thinking is a process for creative problem solving. And I want to highlight this word, problem solving. And I think this word design can actually be something that throws us off. When we hear design, of course, we always think about visual design. But the design thinking process, really the first and foremost important task at hand is to solve problems. And then the next part says design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. The next thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the designer's toolkit. So we're not drawing the designers, we're not trying to make everyone become a designer, but rather it's trying to draw from the designer's toolkit, meaning the way that designers tend to tackle something versus the way maybe a scientist may decide to tackle something, or something like a mathematician may try to solve something. So the first concept I'd like to bring to you is this matter of wicked problems. In the 1960s, there were somebody, I believe his name was Hearst. He coined this phrase, wicked problems. And, here you kind of see this wheel of 10 kind of problems. But wicked problems are those that are very complex. They're multifaceted. One example is you have a problem and it doesn't have a solution. You could have another kind of problem. It's multi-causal and it's interconnected. So you realize trying to touch the problem can also cause other problems. You can also have problems with multiple stakeholders, with conflicting agendas. There can be problems with organizational boundaries. No one person knows who should tackle the problem, or if it falls in a certain jurisdiction. This can certainly be the case with government. And then there's problems with knock-on effects. By touching something, there's a very interconnected macro kind of knock-on effects that happen by trying to fix maybe symptoms of the problem. And the other one I'd just like to highlight is some problems just take a long time to evaluate a solution. And so this is problematic because you're trying to test out ideas, you're trying to find a direction to go on something before you make a big investment. But even the evaluation of the solution is very lengthy and expensive. Okay, so the next key concept is this matter of going wide versus going deep. I think modern civilization, we've certainly gone down the route of specialization. I have no problem with specialization. In fact, in many ways, I consider myself a specialist. But I think what's happened over time, over many years, is, back in the Renaissance, of course, it was celebrated to be somebody who has multi-discipline, that maybe was an artist and a scientist. This was the case with Leonardo da Vinci. This was the case with Galileo. So this was something that was celebrated to be somebody who was wide. And of course, they were quite deep in their disciplines as well. But in design thinking, you may have specialists. I mean, in just a normal day-to-day business, you may have specialists that go very deep in the problem. But it's very typical for the ones that are specialized to not have much communication, for their ideas to not be blended and to be harmonized and to be understood through the lens of multiple factors through many people on the team. So design thinking, with the realization that there's such a thing as wicked problems and it's designed for these complex problems, embraces to have this collaboration. And I think that makes sense, that design thinking would utilize workshops more as a go-to tool. Sometimes I'm in a workshop and I feel like good facilitators, they take time out to do digestions. You do an activity, you see things. It was maybe a little bit crazy putting stickies on the board, maybe generating ideas. But after all that activity, a good facilitator will have everyone sit down, or it could be standing up, but to then begin to have some digestion of what just happened, what they were seeing, what kind of things were running through their minds. And to kind of synthesize some of the things that were heard. When you bring the multidisciplines together, this is quite powerful to be able to hear these things. A question that I get asked is, people will say, hey, Ken, I felt that we could have come up with the same solution as the workshop that you conducted. Well, what I would say is that might be the case, but it's more valuable if other people worked out the solution together. It's powerful when not only you see the solution, but many people see the solutions across many different kinds of disciplines, and they arrive to the same conclusion. So this is something that can't be underestimated. It's not just about efficiency of getting to the right place. It's also about the collaboration and bringing in the input, bringing in the yes ands, so that you can work out a solution together that's very complex. Okay, the next thing I'd like to talk about is this matter of focusing on problems. When I consider Tesla, it's very interesting. Tesla, they actually took on a different problem. I think before that, electrical vehicles were very focused on the efficiency, the practicality of an electrical vehicle. But what Tesla did is they took on the problem that nobody wanted to drive an electrical vehicle. And so Tesla made the electrical vehicle cool. And because it was cool, it was fast, it was a roadster, it was exotic, it was something that they could charge a high price premium. And then their strategy was to bring the price points down as their technology grew. Apple is another company. With the iPhone, of course, we know this was a very disruptive invention. What they did is, I went back to Steve Jobs' the original keynote when he introduced the iPhone, and he said the problem with, and he was showing a picture of the BlackBerry, the Trios, and all, the myriads of devices that kept getting more and more bigger and complex and basically became shrunken down computers in the palms of your hands. He said it's in the lower 40% of these devices. It's not the screen, it's all the buttons. And of course the buttons were a myriad of them. So Steve Jobs, he tackled a different kind of problem. He was tackling the problem that the other companies were actually trying to build upon in advance. I'll give you one final example. So, for an elevator, you could say the problem with elevators is that they just take too long. But if you want to reframe that problem, you could say that the elevator ride is too annoying. And if you do this, then you kind of come to the realization that, or you tackle the problem in a completely different way. If you frame the problem as the elevator ride is annoying, then you might put in mirrors and pleasant music and hand sanitizer, set up warm colors. I don't know. There might be a different, but you kind of see that framing the problem can really cause you to arrive at a completely different solution. So in design thinking, it's not uncommon to try to generate hundreds of problems, hundreds of ways to look at a different, look at the same problem. Of course, we know this one, human-centered. I believe as a UX professional, this is something that's been indoctrinated into you. I think something that's different about design thinking is that design thinking really emphasizes anthropological observation. With UX design, I feel the field has mostly been emphasizing doing interviews, capturing narratives, find out what people are saying and finding out what people are feeling, and doing user testing, and there's some observation with that. But with design thinking, it's all about trying to get immersed with where they are, spending time in their environments, watching them, and also bringing them into co-creating with us, being immersed with their attitudes, with what they're doing, seeing how they're feeling. And so definitely user centricity is a core concept of design thinking. I think this one's a popular one, but I'm going to cover it. It's diverging and converging. I know that sounds like a big word, but I would say it's really just a matter of generating and synthesizing, right? Generating, and there's going to be different things you can generate. You can generate problems. You can generate ways and points and pain points of observations. And there can also be this matter of brainstorming, new ways of looking at things. And then there's the matter of synthesizing, trying to put things together, understanding them. A lot of times practically in a workshop, we'll spend time to generate a lot of stickies, but then at some point, usually you'll take these stickies and group them together and see if there's clusters and themes. And then this gives us an understanding that even though there were some things that were different, they're actually quite related. And then later spend some time doing some root cause analysis. And so if you go and we take it a look at another way, there's the double diamond. And the double diamond is just really diverging, converging in two sections, really to do it in the section of problem solving, and then to do it in the section, into discovering of problems, and then into finding solutions. Okay, the last point I wanted to cover to you is a core concept, a key concept of design thinking is creativity. Creativity is something that over the years, you could say it's been lost. Again, going back to the Renaissance, I think creativity was something that was celebrated with all people. And then as the years went by, we really got focused and specialized into being restrained and going deeper and spending time under many kind of restrictions so that we could become specialized. Another thing that's happened over time is if you look at education, or if you just look at just us as human beings, all young people are creative. If you look at kindergartners, they're doing art. All of them are being creative, whether you like the art or you don't like the art. They have no fear of creativity. They enjoy being creative. They like coloring. They like cutting and creating things and taking things home. They're creative. But Tim Brown from IDEO, he makes an interesting comment, and he says it's somewhere around the fourth grade, he believes, where creativity really tends to get kind of bottled in. And what happens around the fourth grade is just humanly as we develop, this kind of frontal part of our brain, it develops, and it's really more for decision making. I think there's even things related to fear and making wiser decisions and decision making. Those kind of things start to develop. And then in the education system, we may really encourage this kind of rational thought, and because it's more controlled, it's more behaved. And so somewhere along the lines, then this thought, I'm not creative. He's creative, but I'm not creative. I'm not an artist, right? And of course, this is another big thing that needs to get broken down, is creativity being really about visual art. Creativity is in many different kind of forms. It's in many arts. So I would say design thinking is really the promotion that everybody can be creative. Everybody can come out with ideas. And so this points me to another artifact as using sticky notes. Sticky notes, why? Well, sticky notes are small, and in terms of being creative, if I draw a little picture and I'm limited to the sticky note, there's a limit to what the bar is set at. I think everyone understands that sticky note with a Sharpie pen is not going to be a masterpiece. But if you tell me that I need to come up with a very impressive web design that is new, innovative, and you got 4 months to work on it, that causes me to be in fear and trembling, because I realize that there's a vast discrepancy of what this could be, the expectations that are upon me. But the sticky note breaks things down to be accessible. It makes things approachable. And they're disposable. You can move them. You can crumple it up, throw it in the trash can. And again, the emphasizing on the diverging and converging. With diverging, you're trying to generate as many ideas as you can. So just getting stickies on there. Just get stickies, write stickies, draw something. And the emphasis of drawing and design thinking, there's a lot of emphasis on drawing for communication, not for art. And, this is fun. This is something that everybody can do. So anyways, these are some of the key concepts that I wanted to present to you today. Maybe later we can get into the history. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, I just want to thank you for staying tuned with me again. And I'll see you on the next episode.